What happens when one of Hollywood's most cherished stars meets his match in the unlikeliest of places? When the charm and grace that built a legacy crumble under a vicious onslaught? Tonight, we're diving into the moment when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson hit his absolute breaking point on live TV. This isn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. It's the tale of how Stephen Colbert tore apart one of the most polished public personas in entertainment history, piece by devastating piece. Think you know how this ends? Think again. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because this story will shake everything you thought you knew about late-night TV. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert had seen its share of awkward moments, but nothing could have prepared the crowd for what was coming. Dwayne Johnson strode onto that stage, with his million-dollar smile, waving to the roaring audience, exuding the confidence of a man who'd dominated every platform imaginable. Wrestling, movies, social media, business empires. The Rock had turned his charisma into a global brand, worth hundreds of millions. He settled into the guest chair across from Colbert, adjusting his sleek suit, unaware he was stepping into the most defining moment of his career. Stephen Colbert sat behind his desk, with that familiar smirk, honed from his Comedy Central days. But tonight, something was off. A glint in his eyes, a bite to his demeanor, signaling this wouldn't be the usual soft promotional chat Johnson expected. The audience buzzed with excitement, oblivious to the storm brewing between the two men on stage. Dwayne Johnson, "The Rock, thanks for being here," Colbert began, his voice laced with that trademark mock sincerity, a hallmark of his satirical style. "You've really mastered being everyone's favorite guy, haven't you?" Johnson laughed, leaning back with effortless charm. "Well, Stephen, I just try to stay true to myself, connect with people genuinely. That's always been my thing." "Genuine," Colbert echoed, letting the word linger, just a beat too long. "That's curious, because I've been scrolling through your social media lately, and I gotta ask, how do you churn out an inspirational post every single day? That's either the most disciplined soul-searching I've ever seen, or..." He paused, tilting his head with feigned curiosity. Johnson's smile wavered, just for a split second, but he bounced back. "You know, when you've fought for everything like I have, scratched your way up from nothing, you gain a mindset that sees the good in things. I like sharing that with folks facing their own battles." "Right, the battles," Colbert nodded, with exaggerated zeal. "Let's dig into those battles. You talk a lot about your tough childhood, your family's money struggles, that $7 in your pocket story. But, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't your dad, Rocky Johnson, have wrestling connections? Wasn't your grandfather, Peter Maivia, a big name in the game? You weren't exactly starting from scratch, were you?" The question landed like a sucker punch. Johnson's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly, but his media savvy kicked in. "Look, having family in the business doesn't hand you success. I had to prove myself every day, earn every chance I got." "Oh, totally," Colbert agreed, with over-the-top enthusiasm. "I'm not saying otherwise. I'm just poking at this nothing to something story, because when I look at your early wrestling days, you got a pretty big push right off the bat, didn't you? Main events, big opportunities, stuff other wrestlers slaved years for," Colbert continued, tapping his pen on the desk. "That doesn't scream starting from zero to me." Johnson's posture stiffened. This wasn't the script he'd prepped for. "Stephen, every wrestler who hits the top gets breaks. What counts is what you do with them, and I think my record speaks for itself." "Your record?" Colbert mused, his tone teasing. "Let's unpack that record. You've made some bold moves, like ditching wrestling at your peak to chase Hollywood. Some might say, you turned your back on the fans who built you, the second Tinseltown called." "That's not fair," Johnson shot back, a trace of irritation creeping into his voice. "I never ditched wrestling. I moved to movies to reach more people, tell new stories, and make more money." Colbert cut in smoothly. "It was about the cash, wasn't it?" He leaned forward, eyes glinting like he'd found a chink in the armor. "Your wrestling pay, even at the top, was what, a couple million a year? Now you're pulling 20, 30 million per film. Funny how your artistic growth lined up so neatly with your bank account. Johnson's hands gripped the chair's arms, knuckles whitening. I'm not apologizing for success. I work harder than anyone I know. Oh, I bet you do, Colbert said, with mock pity. Those 4 a.m. workout posts on Instagram must be grueling to stage. Tell me, do you really hit the gym at 4 a.m., or is that just when your social media team hits post? The audience murmured, sensing the shift. This wasn't the Colbert they knew. His usual satire felt sharper, almost vicious. Johnson's legendary cool was fraying. I don't have a social media team posting for me, Stephen. Those are my real workouts, my real thoughts. Your real thoughts. Colbert barked a laugh, short and biting. So when you post about overcoming hardship, from your $40 million mansion, that's your genuine take on struggle. When you preach humility, while launching your umpteenth business, that's real humility. You're twisting my words, Johnson snapped, his voice rising. Am I? Colbert spread his hands, playing innocent. Or am I just asking what nobody else has the guts to? Because here's what gets me about your brand, Dwayne, you've sold the world on this authentic, down-to-earth guy, who just happens to be a mega star. But when I dig into your career, I see calculated steps, staged moments, self-promotion that'd make a used car salesman jealous. Johnson shot to his feet, the chair scraping loudly. The audience gasped. I'm done here, Stephen. Oh, come on, Colbert taunted, as Johnson fumbled with his mic. We're just warming up. I haven't even gotten to your presidential run yet. Johnson froze, hand on his lapel mic. What, you think nobody's noticed? Colbert's grin turned feral. The careful political posts, the bipartisan photo ops, the sudden interest in policy you never cared about before. You're gunning for the White House, aren't you? The people's champion wants to be the people's president. That's enough, Johnson said, his voice low but heavy, silencing the room. Is it, though? Colbert pressed, relentless. Because the people deserve to know who they're rooting for. Dwayne Johnson, the man, or the rock, the marketing machine. The studio felt like a pressure cooker, ready to explode. Johnson loomed over Colbert's desk, every muscle taut with barely restrained rage. The audience held its breath, sensing a moment unlike anything in late-night history. Sit down, Dwayne, Colbert said, his voice dripping with fake concern. I'm just trying to keep it real, isn't that what you're all about? Authenticity. Johnson didn't sit. Instead, he gripped the chair's back, leaning forward like a fighter squaring up. You want real, Stephen. Here's real. You've been plotting this takedown since I walked in. This isn't journalism, it's a hit job. Hit job. Colbert laughed, a sharp, cutting sound. I'm just asking questions any skeptic would ask. If pointing out holes in your persona is a hit job, maybe the problem's not my questions, maybe it's the persona you've built. The persona I've built. Johnson's voice deepened. Dangerous now. You mean the part where I grind 18-hour days? Where I've never let a fan down, never broken a promise? That persona. Oh, spare me the hustle speech. Colbert waved him off, dismissive. You know what I think. You're the greatest con artist in showbiz, selling relentless self-promotion as humility, corporate deals as genuine passion, motivational posts as anything but marketing for your next gig. Johnson's knuckles whitened on the chair. You don't know me, Stephen, not my sacrifices, not what I've been through. Then tell me. Colbert leaned back, arms wide in mock invitation. Tell me about the real Dwayne Johnson, not the brand, not the focus grouped image, the guy who picks which face to wear depending on the crowd. I'm the same guy, cameras on or off. Are you? Colbert's eyes gleamed, malicious. Because I've talked to folks who've worked with you, Dwayne, they tell different stories, about tantrums when things don't go your way, demands for control over every question, every angle, every quote. That sound authentic to you? Johnson's jaw clenched, silent for a beat. If you've got something to say it straight. Quit hiding behind rumors and cheap shots. All right, let's get direct, Colbert said, his tone conversational but razor sharp. Let's talk about your beef with Vin Diesel, that public Instagram post where you called him unprofessional, shading your male co-star, without naming him. Real mature, real authentic way to handle a work dispute. That was a private issue that went public, Johnson said, his voice tight. Private. Colbert's eyebrows shot up, mock surprise. You posted it to 200 million followers, what part of that's private? Unless you, accidentally, shared your diary entry. The audience chuckled nervously, and Johnson's face darkened. Sometimes you gotta stand up for your principles. Your principles, Colbert echoed, mulling it over. Is that what we call it when you throw a fit, because Vin Diesel had producer power and final say on set? That's the real story, isn't it? You didn't like him calling shots, so you started a PR war. That's not what happened, Johnson growled. Oh, Colbert pulled a paper from his drawer, waving it. I've got quotes here from crew on those films, want me to read 'em? They tell a very different tale about who was acting unprofessional. Johnson's eyes flashed, deadly. Don't. Now we're cooking. Colbert grinned, like a predator closing in. The real Dwayne Johnson's peeking out, the one who hates losing control of the story, the one who leans on intimidation when the truth gets too close. I'm not intimidating anyone, Johnson said, his voice steady but icy. Oh, that look you're giving me, Colbert whispered, his voice carrying across the studio. That's not the people's champion, not the guy posting about kindness and respect, that's someone who gets his way by scaring people. Johnson straightened, his towering frame dominating the stage. You have no clue what you're talking about. I think I do, Colbert pressed, undeterred. You've been told you're perfect for so long, surrounded by yes men, you've forgotten how to take real heat. You've forgotten how to be human, instead of a brand. Stop, Johnson said, his voice a low rumble of fury. The sad part, Colbert's tone turned mock sympathetic. I used to respect you. Back in your wrestling days, there was something real, raw. But somewhere, you swapped that for marketability, became a product, not a person. I said stop, Johnson roared, his control slipping. And the worst part, Colbert went on, relentless. You've convinced yourself this hollow success is what people want, that your fans love the polished, corporate rock, not the real Dwayne Johnson. But people can smell inauthenticity, even if they can't name it, and what they're smelling from you now, is nothing real beneath the shine. Johnson ripped off his mic, the wire snapping with a crack that echoed like a thunderclap. We're done. This interview's over. Running away, Dwayne, Colbert called, as Johnson headed for the stage's edge. Not very champion-like. What happened to never backing down? To fighting through adversity? Or is that just for the cameras and paychecks? Johnson froze, his back to Colbert, the studio silent except for the hum of lights, and the audience's bated breath. You know your real problem, Stephen, Johnson said, not turning, his voice clear and cutting. You're so bitter about your own fading star, you've gotta tear down people who've actually built something worthwhile. Worthwhile. Colbert's laugh was harsh, mocking. You make popcorn flicks and hawk energy drinks. You're not saving the world, Dwayne, you're just flexing on Instagram. Johnson turned slowly, his eyes burning, making the crowd shift nervously. At least I'm not a washed-up comic, peaking 20 years ago, sniping at politicians from a desk. The audience gasped. This wasn't an interview anymore, it was a verbal cage match, both men swinging for the kill. Colbert's smirk held, but a flicker of danger crossed his eyes. There he is, the real Dwayne Johnson, he said, his voice low. Not so charming without a script, huh, folks? The studio felt like a bomb about to blow. Bitter has been, Colbert continued, his tone venomous. That's cute, coming from a guy recycling catchphrases from 2 decades ago. Tell me, Dwayne, when's the last time you did anything original? Something that wasn't a sequel, a reboot, or a rehash. Johnson stepped forward, his shadow swallowing the stage. At least I'm still relevant. People actually care about what I'm doing. When's the last time anyone under 40 stayed awake for your show? Relevant. Colbert laughed, cold and humorless. You're so desperate to stay relevant, you'll latch onto any franchise that'll take you. Fast and Furious, Jumanji, *DC Comics, you're a parasite, draining every property you touch. Enough, Johnson growled, his voice shaking the room. Is it? Colbert stood, matching Johnson's stance. Let's talk your production company. $7 Productions, named after that $7 myth you lean into. Funny, every film you produce just happens to star you, every project's built around your brand. That's not filmmaking, that's a vanity project with a blockbuster budget. Johnson's fists clenched, his composure in tatters. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about, Colbert fired back. You've turned Hollywood into your personal fan club. Every role's just The Rock in a new outfit, charming tough guy, saving the day, spouting one-liners. You haven't acted in years, you're just playing dress up. You're pathetic, Johnson spat, his voice raw. Hiding behind that desk, taking shots at people who dare to take risks. Risks, Colbert shouted. What risks? Your movies are guaranteed cash cows. You're a human happy meal, safe, predictable. Pandering to the masses, Johnson moved toward the desk, each step heavy with threat. Want to see unpredictable, Stephen? Oh, what are you gonna do? Colbert taunted, his voice wavering as Johnson loomed closer. Swing at me on live TV. That'd be authentic. All right, show the world what The Rock does when he's cornered. Johnson stopped inches from the desk, his breathing ragged, face red with fury. For a heartbeat, it looked like he might cross that line. Security in the wings tensed, unsure whether to step in. The saddest part of this, Johnson said, his voice eerily calm now. You think this makes you look smart, tearing someone down on your own show, but all you've done is show everyone what a small, bitter man you are. Small. Colbert's laugh was shrill, frantic. I'm not the one posting shirtless gym selfies, begging for internet validation. Johnson turned, heading for the stage exit, his steps deliberate. Enjoy your sinking ratings, Stephen. Enjoy knowing this desperate grab for relevance will be all anyone remembers about your show. That's right, run, Colbert yelled, his voice cracking with panic. Back to your bubble, where everyone tells you you're perfect. Back to your scripted interviews, where no one asks real questions. Johnson paused at the stage's edge, not looking back. The difference between us, Stephen, is I built something that matters to people. All you've ever done is destroy. That's not journalism, not entertainment, just demolition. And when the dust settles, that's all you'll be known for. Don't lecture me on legacy, Colbert screamed, his composure gone. Your legacy's teaching kids that muscles and charm trump substance, that authenticity's just a marketing ploy. Johnson vanished into the wings, leaving Colbert alone, chest heaving, face flushed with shame and exertion. The audience sat frozen, unsure whether to react or escape the wreckage. For a long moment, Colbert stood there, the weight of his actions crashing down. He'd dismantled The Rock, exposed what he saw as a hollow facade, but staring at the shocked, disappointed faces in the crowd, he knew he'd paid a brutal price. The cameras rolled, capturing Colbert's dawning horror, that in trying to unmask Dwayne Johnson, he'd unmasked something far worse about himself. So, there it is, the night Stephen Colbert torched his own show, trying to tear down The Rock. A masterclass in how ego and venom can turn an interview into career suicide. What do you think? Was Colbert right to go for the jugular, or did he cross a line too far? Drop your take in the comments, and subscribe for more stories, peeling back the curtain on Hollywood's rawest moments.